Alright, thank you so much for waiting. I'm sorry to be late a little bit. This is Atsushi. I will start the Sashiko Live. Sashiko Live, it's so small. Why did I write so small? Um, I will show my Sashiko stitching without any editing, any modification, any faking. So you will see how, the Japanese stitch, and I hope you can learn something from that. Any questions are welcome. Any well, I will. Sorry, the questions are welcome, but if the questions is about technical topic, I will either navigate you to some of the tutorials which I have already, or will not probably mention that, um, because so that I can be fair with everybody who actually take my workshop as well as the online class. So I will not answer the technical questions, but I'm happy to answer the other cultural or historical or the other general topics of Sashiko. Hello, hello, hello! Thank you so much for watching from everywhere in the world. I will finish this pattern Asanoha stitching, and I'll make a coaster out of it. All right. That was a very good live streaming in Japanese a week, 1 hour ago. So, whew, I have to switch my mind. I have to switch my brain to English. Hello, thank you so much for coming back. That was fun. That was my Japanese skill in terms of my Japanese conversation skill is getting super, super, super poor because this is my 7th year in the US and I have not been back to Japan even once. That's really sad and bad, but I have not been back to Japan for 7 years and nobody speaks in Japanese in my family, and I really don't go out to hang out, especially in this COVID. So my Japanese are very bad. So I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of silly, silly stand up. It's not even comedy. It's like silly statement. So at the same time, English is my second language. So please forgive my any mistakes. And so what is my language? Like I sometimes feel what is my language. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for coming. If this is the first time for you to look at this, this is Atsushi in Stitching the Sashiko, and welcome back for most of those who have been here with me. So as I wrote down on the Instagram, I tried my best to to set up this live streaming more regularly every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I know this is not the best time for many people, but this is the only time I can be kind of free without my responsibility. So I will try to have it every week at the same time for 1 hour or a little less than 1 hour. And if it's not gonna happen, I will announce it on Instagram, Facebook, and everywhere else. So it'd be great if you could come, or if you're watching this as the archive, I will always keep the archives on, so please watch that. I sometimes talk about pretty important stuff. そんなことないよ。頑張ったよ。Sorry. よっこいしょ。I think I can finish this Asanoha pattern today, and I probably can work on the sewing machine later on. Probably not in the live streaming, but I can work on the sewing machine to make a coaster. This will be a coaster, and I will upload. I will edit this video and then make like small tutorials how to utilize Sashiko skill to make a Sashiko product. I receive a many requests to make Sashiko cat, and I'm not a big fan of Sashiko cat because I want everybody to learn how to transfer the pattern or how to prepare fabric, how to stitch with your own stitch size instead of filling the gap which is already printed on the fabric. After after one learns how to transfer the fabric, how to prepare the fabric and how to stitch, everything else is pretty much out of Sashiko. You know, if you know how to use sewing machine, you will learn how to make coasters. That's exactly what I'm doing. I am doing Sashiko right now, but after doing Sashiko, it's pretty much the matter of like a general sewing skill, and I will probably not broadcast how to use sewing machine because I'm not good at it. But at the same time, you know, this is what one need to enjoy Sashiko as we do. Just a second. Excuse me. Sorry. Yep, that's exactly what I'm gonna make as a tutorials, how to make Sashiko. But yes, sorry. I usually put the interface, something kind of solid in between, and then put the back fabric on it. So it's gonna be 3 layers of fabric. Not like I don't know if you call it interface as the fabric, but it's not that difficult. So in general, what we need is just fabric and needle and thread and thimble. With that, we can pretty much make anything. So that's what I want to share. We're not doing anything special. There's nothing special about it. If you like some stitching, crafting, sewing, you know how to make coasters. And that's about it. That's why I'm kind of happy that many quilting people join Sashiko and utilize Sashiko patterns or stitched Sashiko fabric to their quilting. I think I'm not really an expert. I don't really know about quilting, but if I understand quilting well, that it's some part of the good quilting is the piecing. By using the Sashiko stitched fabric, they can make a very beautiful quilting as well. I am afraid to cut the fabric once there is Sashiko on it. Go ahead, that's how it's supposed to do. Another reason I keep saying that Sashiko thread matters is that once you stitch and once you treat the Sashiko fabric good, once I stitch the fabric and then once I follow this like proper procedure to take care of the Sashiko stitched fabric, cutting the fabric is not gonna lose all of the stitching. This is very much a core of this Sashiko thread, but as long as the stitcher use the Sashiko thread I recommend, cutting the Sashiko stitched fabric is not gonna be bad. So I think there's a tutorials on this YouTube channel that how to not to make a knot. I mean, you can of course make a knot, but if you follow that how to not to make a knot and learn that technique, and well, actually not even that. let me put it simple way. When you use the thread I am using, cutting the fabric in the middle, like let's say here, Like even if you're gonna cut it here, it's not gonna be a problem. That's really crazy, right? Like it sounds crazy, but it's not gonna be a problem. Actually, so let me just, it's kind of important. So there are few reasons. So the thread is very important. Thread is super important. So please, please, please choose the right thread, which I keep testing every single time I stitch. So as long as we use the appropriate thread, when I cut it here, it will not fray by itself. However, of course, the general friction or those like using will take those stitches off if there is no knots or overlay stitching. So, however, when we finish as a coaster, we stitch around, right? So by stitching around, it will catch the existing stitch, so it's not gonna be off. That's the kind of trick. So if one's project is to just patch this stitched Sashiko fabric on the back of denim, then then kasane is quite important. But if the goal is to make something out of it, cutting the fabric itself is not gonna end up with something that I would be afraid of. So it's not that. I mean, I have a pile of, if you are interested, I can show you that, right? I have a pile of those fabric that we cut after stitching. When we make a jacket, bags, like anything, we stitch first and then cut the fabric with the pattern paper. We do not cut the fabric first and then stitch on it. There's a reason for that. Well, actually, there's always a reason for what I say. But one of the reasons that we stitch first is that Sashiko stitches will add the bias. Some angles depends on the pattern we stitch. So Asanoha pattern is sort of even stitch, but this also will require enforce the bias or shrinkage to the fabric. So long story short, the fabric we stitch will be smaller than actually should be. Therefore we have to stitch first and then cut after that. Ideally after good treatment too. So because of that, we have a lot of, like, a pile of fabric we stitched yet cut it off. I always use the cut off fabric for the mending project. It's a very good fabric to use for the mending or small patches, so it's not gonna go to waste. It's not gonna go to waste, but that's something we always do that. Okay, I will show that in 10 minutes. Is that okay? Good treatment is gonna be a little bit difficult to explain here. But that's a kind of difficult to explain without actual. Good treatment is using it as if you're using it. Using as if you are actually using that. I know it doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. So, okay. Please watch the other video so-called "What is the purpose of Sashiko thread?" I think that's the Sashiko story number 2 of volume 2. Sashiko story in volume 2 is about the difference between Sashiko thread and non-Sashiko thread, and I should be talking about what is the purpose of Sashiko. What is the purpose of Sashiko thread? in there I explain the purpose of Sashiko thread is to become the fabric. So in order to become a fabric, we have to use the fabric a little bit. So that's the kind of a good treatment I talk about. I teach that in the online class step by step, but it's gonna be long, and I wanna be fair with everybody who takes the online class. So that's the good treatment I'm talking about. You use the fabric as if you're using in the normal life. As long as we use the right thread, it's gonna be good enough. I hope it makes sense. It's kind of difficult to explain. That's why it's not that easy to put everything online. But yet, usually it's gonna be okay without proper. No, without. Okay, I'll bring up pieces. Just a second, okay? Sorry, big pile is somewhere. So I have like very few things, but what did I use it for? It is perfectly fine to stitch like this. Just a second, okay? I'm sorry, just a second. So this is one of the sample. I don't know what I was doing this one with, but it is perfectly fine to cut it here. And this way is okay. This way is okay. It will start fraying a little bit like this, but there will not be a problem because we will probably, if this was actual project, we can put things together with using the sewing machine. So this is some samples for that. This one is also have a lot of Sashiko stitching. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a lot of stitches here. It's okay to cut. It's okay to, yeah. I mean, it's not really a helpful thing, but it is okay. It is okay to cut the stitched fabric, and as long as you have a purpose, the next, if you keep using this as is, it could probably could fray it a little bit, but it's not gonna come off. Even this one. But the good point is, the very important point is that to use the Sashiko thread I tested. I mean, like even this one. Everything is. This fabric, the part of the fabric could fray, but for some reason the thread doesn't really come off. And those, for some reasons, there are a lot of videos, and if you could watch the I think that's the Sashiko Story Volume 2 that explains that there. I hope it makes sense. Sorry, it's a little bit my personal thing. The family came back and it was not a good swimming lesson. That's gonna make me feel very kind of not a depressed but difficult for it's difficult to be a parent sometimes. So that's the reason of my changing tone right now. Ay, 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 okay, I'm on the live streaming, so let's now focus on that. My pleasure, my pleasure. That was so helpful me. Thank you so much for only use thread and standing good treatment. So it's really difficult to explain the good treatment without. I don't want to make any misunderstanding. That's the reason I'm not like being very articulate about it right now. So when one follows all of the things I want to share, like the good treatment is not a one thing. It's the whole process of Sashiko stitching, including the first step, which is choosing the Sashiko thread and Sashiko needle as well. So the good treatment indicates pretty much everything that I share. So for example, I'm sorry, I just want to be as clear as possible. If one stitch by one stitch like this, I don't recommend you to cut it. Don't cut it, because there's always the possibility of thread coming off from the fabric. Even if I think it's gonna be okay if one use the thread I recommend, but I cannot guarantee because I don't stitch like this. So the good treatment indicate the way I stitch, the way I handle the needle, and with the same tools that I use. So it's kind of difficult to just place one word for that. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't want to be exclusive about it. I don't want to make any misunderstanding. Like if I say that, well, good treatment is the washing the fabric. That's the kind of the last treatment. But washing the fabric requires. The washing the fabric itself will not do that. Then your question will be, then what do you need? Well, that's the exactly things I teach in the workshop, so it's gonna take at least another 2 hours or so to explain here. So I'm sorry about that. That's something I cannot do it right now here. But choosing the good thread, stitching as I do, stopping the thread as I do, the same length of the thread I use. Like a list of things. Like there's probably, I don't know how many things I tell in the workshop, but when one follow all of that, the fabric on the thread will not come off like this. Like this is probably a good example. So this is Sashiko stitched. I cut it here like this, and I do not make any knots at the end. A bit. Some yes, some no. So the fabric can fray like this. Some fabric can flay like this. Fabric does flay because it's a fabric. Like this. It should fray because there's no treatment on this edge. Like this. Do you see that? But the stitch doesn't come off. That's the beauty of tradition, I would say. But this doesn't mean that we always use this one like this. it's good to finish the project with the sewing machine. If you're making a jacket or bags, some like heavy usage in a heavy traffic, it's always good to have some secure stitching around. So yes, I hope it makes sense. So don't worry about it. Don't worry too much about cutting the fabric, especially if you have a plan after that. I would not recommend cutting the fabric if just because you want to cut it. That's not something I would recommend. But we usually have a project or plan after cutting the fabric, which is sometimes, well, for this fabric, it's the making the coaster. For the other, might be using it as the patch on the denim jeans, making a jacket. You know, anything is fine. But if you have a project or if you have a plan after cutting the fabric, I don't want you to be so scared of the cutting the fabric, like stitch the fabric. It's after all, it's a stitching, so you can redo it if something happens. But I don't think it's gonna be something. I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think it's something's gonna happen. Yeah. It's gonna be a difficult day for me. It's completely my personal thing. It's my personal things right now. It's gonna be a difficult day. Oh. Anyway, I probably can share how to finish the coasters as a tutorials after I complete this much stitching. Not today probably, but I will use the sewing machine and I try to film it as much as I can. But it's pretty much the very basic of sewing, I think. By learning this, how to transfer the fabric or how to prepare the fabric, how to draw the patterns on the fabric, and how to do the Sashiko stitching and how to... That's it, I'm sorry, just two things. Learning how to prepare the fabric, either drawing the pattern by yourself or transferring the pattern on the fabric, and learning how to stitch. You don't need any kit. In my opinion, you don't need any kit. You can do pretty much anything you want. So when we play with the kit, Sashiko kit, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not I'm not accusing or I'm not saying something bad about it. There's nothing wrong with it. Just I don't want them to end their Sashiko journey by enjoying the kit, because there's a lot more enjoyable things. There are a lot of patterns you could enjoy. So and it's not that difficult to learn how to prepare the fabric, so I want everybody to enjoy the patterns as they wish, with the size they like to do it, on the fabric they want to stitch on, for the project they want to make. If they want to make a bag, just make a bag, choose a good fabric for the bag, prepare the patterns on the fabric, stitch to make sure that the fabric is strong enough, and then after that it's more like a tailoring, like a seamstress work, and I'm not that good at it. So sorry for the sigh. It's gonna be a difficult day today. Ay, ay, ay. Wait, I didn't miss anything, right? I'm sorry about this. Like I can imagine that. I just it's really easy to imagine today's tension after this live streaming. So yeah. It's the scary part of the live streaming because I cannot fake that. I cannot edit it. Like if it's the filming, I can take some times off and then change my feeling and be positive, like fake positive. But live is a little difficult for that. Is it on the screen? I'm sorry. Okay, I think I am done stitching. It's about 35. Okay, let's see what I can stitch a little more. I have 10 minutes or so left, so let's see what I can stitch. Let's see if there's any stitches left that I didn't do well. So the reason there's a little big space in the middle like this lane, it's not finished, right? So this will be the 4 coasters, 4-inch-ish square. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's gonna be like this size. I mean, not exactly this size, but about this size. So there's I didn't stitch here because I would probably cut it anyway. It's gonna be a waste. It's not gonna be a waste, but it wouldn't be necessary. Probably here is a good idea. Okay. If you have any questions, I am happy to answer it as much as I can in 10 minutes. And if I cannot answer that, I will try to carry it to the next time so I can answer it more. Okay. Meanwhile, I'll stitch something big a little bit and that's it for today. It's quite huge. It's really big carton, which I probably shared that in a civil live streaming back. Let's see what I do here. It's probably here's It's Friday, right, today? Yeah, it's Friday. Okay. I cannot believe it's already the weekend. Ah, today. So Sashiko thread, like the most of the Sashiko thread I offer is 145 meter, which is about 400 something feet, I guess. It's big skein. It's very big skein, but sometimes it's we need that much at least to enjoy a good Sashiko project. So, oops. I hope you find the Sashiko thread from our website, or there are a lot of Sashiko thread, and there's a pro and cons and there's a preferences. I'm not gonna say one is good and one is bad, but well, I can say one is good and one is bad, but I will not say it here. There's a reason we keep using one kind of thread. Okay, one more line, or probably not. Sorry, I have to probably go. Today's a little early. I came in a little late, and I'm sorry that I have to leave a little earlier. But I'll show you this whole picture, and I will probably work on this next time, next Friday. I have to go now. I'm sorry. So this is about how many? It's 8 multiply 8, 64th inch. I don't know what 64 inch is, but this is quite big, and I've been working on this about, I think, 40 hours, 50 hours or so. It's quite big. It has not been done yet, but I want to make this more like a thick and heavy fabric, and it's gonna be the curtain or partition to block the air from the garage. I probably keep saying that, but I will probably stitch on this. Okay, I will go to take care of my stuff. I will see you next Friday. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry that it's kind of early today. It's a little short today, but I will see you next Friday. ありがとうございました。ちょっと抜けます。ありがとうございました。バイバイ。